From the Banner offices along the Inner Harbor, it is the Banner Baseball Show. Paul Mancano and John Meoli live on a Wednesday in April. We got a lot to talk about on today's show. We're going to talk about what we've learned through the first 5 games of the Orioles road trip as they set to close it out today against the Chicago White Sox. The good, the bad, and the ugly. All that and much, much more. But first, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. Toyota knows your day doesn't slow down, so your vehicle shouldn't either. From the efficient Corolla and always-ready Camry to the adventurous RAV4 and spacious Grand Highlander, plus many models available with all-wheel drive, Toyota builds a lineup that shows up for every kind of driver. And right now, great financing and lease options are available to qualified customers, making it a perfect time to find the one that fits you. Find a great deal today at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Having an ad read done by yourself feels like I'm doing a song where I'm sampling my own music in the song.
That's like real podcast stuff. That's real podcast stuff.
We are a real podcast. That's what many people are saying, John.
I just told you as I was sending myself our rundown that I would also look at it as I was emailing them myself. I did look at your spreadsheet of like how these are doing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to people who listen to this.
Yes, we have people who listen to us. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
There are people that take time out of their day and listen to us on 2 times speed to get all of their Orioles analysis. We really appreciate it.
God, I can't imagine what I sound like on 2 times speed.
You sound great. I listen to you on 2 times speed. I listen back to our shows to make sure I didn't mess up anything in the editing. And sometimes I often do. And you sound great.
I listen back to our shows too, Paul.
No, you don't.
No, I do not.
No, you don't.
Shout out to Stevie Baker. We were hanging out in the parking lot after a hockey game last night. I turned him onto the podcast.
Nice.
That's a cool thing to get to be able to do. Turn people onto the podcast.
Absolutely.
I have a podcast.
Yeah. By the way, if you listen and you like what you're listening to, write us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and I'll read it out here on the show. I've done it before, and I will do it again. John, no update in terms of Fast and Furious. I haven't watched any of those movies recently, but I did engage in another one of John Meoli's cultural, habits, and that is go to a Marshall's.
Yeah.
And purchase some clothes. And I'll tell you, I like the selection. Not crazy about the pants selection as much, but the tops, I got some good tops. I'll be debuting them later on the podcast.
The pants were better in Florida is what I would say. These pants I'm wearing right now, they're like bigger black jeans. Those are from Florida.
The specific Marshalls in Sarasota is what you're referencing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this was the one that's like closer to Siesta Key. The one in University Parkway is pretty good, but there's just a lot going on there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I'm partial to Marshalls as well.
That should be their slogan.
Wow. Yeah. No, I love a good Marshalls. If it's been when did we last record our podcast, Paul?
When was our last confession?
Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah.
It's been 6 days since I went to a Marshall's.
Wow.
Not going today, though. I got to go to the office after this.
I want John's definitive ranking of all of the Marshalls both in the Maryland area and also in the Florida area.
They go in 2 buckets. They're just like, all right, like I'm in the neighborhood. Like, let's see what we got. And then it's like, yeah, I'm in the neighborhood. Like, why not? I stop in.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. There's no like, I'm not going to not go if I can and I feel the opportunity, but sometimes I just know I'm walking out empty-handed, and sometimes I feel like maybe there's a chance.
Sure. It's all a gamble. You never know what you're going to get. I know this doesn't matter much to you, John, but yesterday, my favorite band, The Strokes, dropped a new single in preparation for a new album. And to me, that is as big as Taylor Swift announcing that. If I could put it in your terms, if Taylor Swift came out with a new single in preparation for a new album, that's what it meant to me. The Strokes brings me back to my angsty teenage years. Did that ever?
I mean, I had angsty teenage years. I was like an emo kid,
but the Strokes weren't a part of it.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure if I like heard a bunch, like I'm sure if I put on like the Strokes Essentials playlist, like I'd have heard all the songs.
Sure.
Probably in that category, but I was more like an emo kid.
Okay. Like My Chemical Romance.
Earlier than that. Like
okay.
Take Back Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Brand new. Like, yeah, a lot of yelling.
Got a lot of yelling.
A lot of emotional. Obviously emotional because that's the word. I was
Emotionally
trying to think of the
hardcore.
way to say it.
Yeah.
Very spiteful towards women, which is interesting to listen back to now. I don't understand why I felt that way, but but it's also because I'm 37. Like,
yeah,
at some point, you gotta let stuff go.
You gotta let stuff go. I'm never letting the Strokes go. All right, let's talk about the Baltimore Orioles. Let's talk about their road trip, which has given us some highlights and certainly some lowlights. The Orioles are 5-6 at this point after they were swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates over the weekend, but they have taken 2 in Chicago. They are playing the series finale, going for the sweep this afternoon. So by the time you listen to it, they could have swept the Chicago White Sox and gotten themselves back to 500. We're going to break this down into the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the good from what we've seen on this Orioles road trip. I'd say we have to start with Trevor Rogers because he has been the brightest of stars for the Orioles over his last 21 starts. Really going back to last season when he came up in Boston, made a surprise start, was terrific, and took the ball and ran with it from there. And he has picked up right where he left off, John. In 3 starts this year, 19 innings, he's allowed 4 earned runs. He once again, through 3 starts, has a sub-2 ERA. This guy is ridiculous.
Yeah, and the way he's doing it is like it feels very similar where it's like there'll be one inning where you're like, oh man, okay.
Yeah, he's working through traffic.
Yeah, and then like the rest of it is just like cruising. And in the same way that it was last year, it's just like very helpful to have that kind of reliability. I think this Orioles season was built on the premise that there would be more good pitching other than Trevor Rogers. And I don't think that premise is a failed one. It's very interesting how he has been able to do it. I don't think I had any doubt that he would be able to just kind of like let it rip and just be the same guy. I think that he has is it makes me very interesting. Like, I don't want to talk about his future, like this team's future in the rotation or whatnot, but like it is very, he is somebody you talk about. It's like, oh, it should have extended him. It's like, yeah, of course. But like, if this was what he was going to do and he knew this was going to go, like, that's probably a short conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nobody expected him to have a sub-2 ERA last year. And I think even the, people who were highest on Trevor Rogers did not expect him to have a sub-2 ERA this year. And I don't think he will. But we keep saying, I don't think he's going to keep this up forever. And he keeps doing it. So at some point, he will come back down to earth. But until he does, you just got to ride that wave. And for him, there's absolutely no reason to sign an extension when you are pitching like this and you are months away from free agency.
The thing about him is that like he doesn't really give up home runs. Like he hasn't this year. And he hardly did last year. And even when he wasn't very good, he didn't give up a ton of home runs.
Yeah.
So like it makes it, he's also not like, he's not like some like turbo sinker guy and like everything's on the ground. Like it just works in a way that is very, I don't want to say old school, but like, it's not like he's going out there and like punching out 12 every time he pitches, right. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And like that's so valuable.
Absolutely. Another good from the road trip, Brandon Young coming up and making a spot start and pitching 5 scoreless innings against the Chicago White Sox. When we saw that Zach Eflin went down with his injury, we all figured, and we said on last week's show, that Dean Kramer would be the natural replacement, and yet he wasn't. Dean Kramer pitched Friday in Norfolk. He only threw 62 pitches in that start. I'm not sure what was going on there. I'm not sure if the Orioles, just because Kramer hadn't pitched in a while, wanted to keep him on turn. Do you know what something else could have been bubbling under the surface, but it is kind of odd that Dean Kramer was not the first call when Zach Eflin went down. And perhaps they'll remedy that and they'll change that because they already sent Brandon Young down to the minors. But we could see, it was a little surprising to not see Dean Kramer get the ball in the big leagues.
Yeah. And I wonder if the fact that this happened at a time when they needed to figure out to get some kind of relief help here meant that they had a plan and gamed it out and said, you know what, it doesn't matter that we're talking about one start.
Right.
We're talking about one start over a 6-month season. And Dean Kramer's pitching today for Norfolk. This is Wednesday as we're speaking, which would put him on turn to, I believe, slot back into the Orioles rotation if they need it with the off day on Thursday. He can be back in the mix like Monday, Tuesday.
Right.
I think they go straight through with no off days after Thursday.
They do.
So you can have Trevor Rogers come back on Sunday, and you can have Kyle Bradish pitch on Monday, or Dean Kramer pitch on Monday and give Kyle Bradish an extra day, because the Orioles at some point are going to have to start just doing that. Like, just do it. Just do it, please. So it is not a very satisfying thing to say into a microphone, nor I can imagine it's not to hear, but like, I'm sure there is a reason that this happened, and I'm sure maybe we will find out someday. And I don't think there's anything to it other than like, they're trying to just win on whatever day it is, and figuring out a way to get Dean Kramer here to start 4 days from now, or like get him off schedule, just wasn't going to align with that.
Yeah, it was just a little odd because of how aggressive they've been, but if they wanted to keep him on turn, if they wanted him to pitch Friday in Norfolk, and they needed to give themselves a little bit of relief help, which they did with Albert Suarez, you can understand that. And then we thought Cade Povich might be the guy when he got called up Sunday, and he got pressed into service in relief of Chris Bassett in an absolutely disastrous start. And he actually pitched pretty well in that stint. We'll get to Chris Bassett in just a second, but I expect to see Dean Kramer back in this rotation at some point soon. Also the good, Gunnar Henderson is looking like himself again. 4 homers in 11 games and 889 OPS. He hit that 2-run shot yesterday, sticking the tongue out, having a good time.
Yeah.
It has been very, very difficult to get the ball out of the ballpark for all hitters in Chicago. They've pushed up the game time twice because of the cold. Have you ever seen that? Just cold weather. They're like, nah, this isn't a night game anymore. On a weekday, we're going to make this a 2:00 start.
I think so. And I think
really,
they're very proactive with weather stuff in Chicago. This is like not, this is not an important thing to talk about or say. I just remember I've been there. Like, I feel like a couple times I went there and they just like noon, they were like, nope, not doing it today. Like crazy. Doubleheader tomorrow. Let's just, because at some point you got to play the game. But like, if you're talking about like having a couple thousand more fans there, like, you're not really moving the needle. So they just are very aggressive and like, all right, let's just get this game in. Like, who knows what's going to happen? So unfortunate that happened, but for the Orioles, I suppose. But they probably got to go eat some dinner last night. I don't know.
Yeah. I just think, having gone to Syracuse, that everybody is soft when it comes to the cold. But Gunnar Henderson getting that ball out of the yard took a lot of strength.
That's what we're talking about, Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody has had a hard time getting the ball out of the yard. There have been some balls that have died on the warning track over the last couple days that you thought for sure would be out of the ballpark if this game were being played in June or July. So for Gunnar to muscle that thing over the wall and right was impressive. That is what he is here to do. He is here to uplift the offense. And especially after he struck out in a 12 or 13 pitch battle earlier in that game yesterday, to come through in such a big moment. We've said it before, and we'll say it again. Gunnar Henderson, if he is healthy, is going to hit a lot more than his 17 homers from last year.
Yeah, and Andy Koska, our boy, pointed this out on Twitter. He's going to see a ton of lefties this year, and even though there's righties packed around him, like, a manager is gonna say, do we want to feed Pete Alonso this lefty? Pete Alonso has hit righties better than lefties, but he's right-handed, and people will see that matchup, and they're still going to choose to attack Gunnar Henderson that way. You're not going to give Gunnar Henderson any kind of advantage if you can help it. And this is a couple times now when he has made teams pay. It has to be incredibly frustrating for him to come up in these spots and they're like, all right, well, let's bring in a lefty. And
let's bring in a lefty, and let's bring in our best lefty possible.
Yeah, yeah. And there was a point last year where that, especially early as Gunnar Henderson was like trying to find his swing, the Orioles were facing, I think there were like a half dozen all-star lefties last year, and the Orioles faced he faced them like 9 times in the first 6 weeks of the season. It was insane.
Yeah.
And that's not good for anyone, let alone a lefty like Gunnar Henderson. But also the Orioles were never winning. So other teams were protecting leads, and they were doing things like that Gunnar Henderson. And I don't think there was any doubt that Gunnar Henderson was going to start slugging again, period. And I think righties were going to be the source of that power. But for him to, that's how the Orioles are going to win games, is like that little pocket of the lineup. Somebody's they started performing towards the end of the homestand, but it was very clear that was worth writing about, because that is a tough thing for an opposing manager to have to do. And Gunnar Henderson is at the heart of it. He is the one who is
the straw that stirs the drink.
He's just so good. He can do that. And even the at bat before that, when the 12 pitch or 13 pitch strikeout, that is the type of thing that didn't change. It would have changed the game if you got a hit. That changes the game, period, because that starter wasn't going to stay in very long.
Right.
But it changes the game, and all the stuff he does falls into that category.
For sure. You talked about that pocket of the lineup being so crucial. You wrote about it on thebanter.com, where people can subscribe $1 for 6 months. We'll get into the bad and the ugly. The bottom half of the lineup certainly has not been carrying its weight. One guy who has been, though, is Blaze Alexander, hitting .320. He's playing great defense wherever he's been put. Until this team gets Jackson Holliday back and hopefully eventually Jordan Westburg, Blaze Alexander's going to have to play a lot, and he has been very impressive.
Yeah. And I think the hope, I guess we're sitting here before we learned about Jackson Holliday and Jordan Westburg's injuries, is that you have someone who can do what Blaze Alexander does, and he can do all the things still. He can he's doing one or two specific things defensively, but there was a need for someone who can do a lot of things, because the Orioles have Brown Mountcastle hanging out, and Kobe Mayo, and Samuel Basayo is not really a backup catcher. They have all these parts that they need to get into the lineup, all these players that need to play, even if some of them don't play. So even if this team is operating optimally, I'm not sitting here counting on Jordan Westburg being back anytime soon, if at all. But Jackson Holliday will be, and there's nothing wrong with Jeremiah Jackson, but Blaze Alexander is the type of person you need on a team like this, and his energy is it seems like he always brings something to the table, and I think it's just a different vibe. It's a different playing style than this team had in the past, and I think it's showing itself to be kind of meaningful so far.
And it's making the trade so far look pretty good. I mean, I remember at the time saying Cade Stroud and Wellington Aracena and Jose Mejia, there's quite a lot to give up for a guy, and he can't be optioned. He has no options left. And so far it has looked pretty darn good. It's early, obviously.
But the Orioles needed that.
Yes.
Do they need Cade Stroud? Maybe. How different is the season if Cade Stroud is
right
on? Are they 6-5? Are they maybe? I don't know what game he would have pitched in that would have been nails. They don't lose because Cade Stroud pitches. I think there's a handful of games where they might not have won so far if Blaze Alexander wasn't on this team.
Right.
And all those wins matter. And
Cade Stroud is not even pitching in the big leagues right now for the Arizona Diamondbacks as well. He is currently in the minors. I just thought that kind of utility guy could be found in free agency. I thought of guys like, Dylan Moore, who has yet to get a hit in his 6 plate appearances for the Philadelphia Phillies. So those kind of guys, I thought those are guys that you could sign, not guys that you necessarily need to give up prospects to get. But I was proven wrong. It looks like so far the Orioles knew what they were doing. Another good from the road trip, Adley Rutschman. He has been a good this whole season so far through 11 games. He's hitting .292 with an .872 OPS. This is what we've been waiting to see, John. We've been waiting to see a revived Adley Rutschman. It looks like he's making more solid contact. He has yet to hit his first home run this season, but he's barreling up the baseball. He's putting the ball in gaps, and he's doing a lot.
Yeah, and it's definitely a unique, I don't want to say middle ground, but his max exit velocity isn't what it has been in past years. His average is a lot higher than it has been. His overall hard hit rate, he's hitting the ball more consistently hard. And I wish there was a way to to quantify. I mean, there's a way to quantify everything. This is baseball. There's literally like motion capture cameras that capture every single movement. You can quantify anything you want. It just feels reductive to say all the things that I just said. It's the absence of all the things that it felt like were bringing him down in the second half of 2024 and most of last year, where you felt like he knew he needed to get all of it for anything good to happen.
Yeah.
Every single plate appearance, he was swinging very hard. And again, I'm saying this and I can literally look up how hard he was swinging. And, I think it's also different because Adley Rutschman is a switch hitter. So like some of these stats are, but it felt like he was just up there trying to hit the ball. I feel so stupid. I just want to stop talking. But you understand what I'm saying, that he was out there and it also wasn't working.
Right.
Like he was swinging. I remember like very early in my baseball covering time, some minor league manager referred to somebody who was out there taking all out hell hacks.
That's a good term.
Yeah.
Swinging out of his shoes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like, but Adley Rutschman wasn't necessarily doing that, but it was in the spirit of that. And it was also not really producing results. But like now that he is hitting the ball, he's making such better contact that it doesn't matter. He doesn't need to do that. He can just make good contact and hit line drives all over the field. And that just makes a huge difference. I mean, his bat speed is up.
Yeah. 71 miles an hour, according to StatCast. It's up a mile per hour from last year.
Yeah. And
2 miles per hour from 2024.
And, I don't know what squared up percentage actually means. Like, I don't know how you quantify someone else. Caleb Joseph had this conversation with me. He was like, who are you to say that I got a barrel? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, the Orioles do a lot of like,
a barrel is just
measuring barrels because like, especially like when Aberdeen, they were like, you can't tell somebody like you got a double. So that was good. It's like, you probably lined out to center field, but it would have been a double if you weren't playing in Aberdeen. So like,
right.
That's a real thing. But he always like can put the bat on the ball. There's just more results happening right now.
Yeah.
That was such a bad answer.
No, a barrel for StatCast purposes is really just a combination of launch angle and exit velocity. Like it's really nothing more than that. It's not like they measure on the bat where it was hit. Yeah. And that kind of thing.
Yeah. But they have like a squared up percentage. And I just don't, I'm still trying to figure out. I'm not actually looking at what that means.
Adley Rutschman's making better contact. That is the best.
Can you make me stop talking?
I'll start talking for you, John. Let's switch over from the good to the bad. Those 3 games in Pittsburgh were pretty rough. I mean, the way that they lost those 3 games in heartbreaking fashion and then to go out with a whimper in the series finale Sunday was pretty painful. One of the tough developments so far this season has been Colton Cowser getting absolutely peppered with off-speed pitches like he was last year, especially in the second half of last year, and him still not having an answer for it. Colton Cowser so far is hitting 182 with a 496 OPS. Until he comes up with a way to hit an off-speed pitch, he is not going to see anything other than that. John, you said before the season, could end up with 20 home runs or 25 home runs because he will see 20 or 25 fastballs. I don't know if he's even going to see 25 fastballs this season.
I did say that. You're right, Paul. I'm trying to. I'm not going to try to dig into this as we're talking because that's not an effective use of our time. There is. I say this and like. There's a bat against I think like Mitch Keller where it's just like 3 straight changeups and like in the exact same place and he swung it all 3 and then walked back to the dugout.
Yeah. And they were all low and in.
Yeah, I'm not sure that is necessarily a fair characterization of what's happening because he's seeing a lot of pitches still otherwise.
Sure.
I am trying to see, there's a little more chase there than you want. it's just the swing and miss when it happens. And I think making them come into the zone, period, will help. You know who hits change-ups in the dirt? Nobody does that. Vlad Guerrero did like one time.
Yeah, Vlad Guerrero.
And like, we still talk about it like 20 years later. Nobody hits those pitches. You know, sliders in the dirt, like back foot sliders. Like, those are good pitchers' pitches because you're not going to get hurt by them or they're going to swing and miss.
Yeah.
So for somebody who can control the strike zone, it just makes it that much more necessary that Colton Cowser doesn't chase. And he is capable of not chasing. He didn't chase last year. I think he's chasing a bit more this year. I think it's fair to say last year's chase rate was 23.8%. This year it's 33.9%. I'm sure we can dig in and say like what is on spin, like what's on fastball, stuff like that. But you cannot. This is a tough way to live. This is a really tough way to live because if you know you're going to get it, there's no amount of like, you know, spin ball machine you can face. There's nothing that the traject can do to help you, because you still have to be like, to be a big league hitter is you have to be able to hit the fastball. If Colton Cowser goes up there and it's like, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to move back in the box. And if it's a breaking ball, then I'll react. You know what happens? There's a fastball right down the middle. You're just going to look at it. You're not going to swing the bat. You have to be ready to hit the fastball. And it seems like there needs to be some kind of middle ground in him arriving at that. I'm interested to read Andy's story. I don't know if it's posted yet, but I'm interested to hear what Colton Cowser had to say about it.
Yeah. The off-speed pitch, according to Statcast, is defined as a changeup or a split finger. Colton Cowser has seen 48 off-speed pitches compared to just 36 breaking balls and 34 fastballs. He's seeing the fastball the least amount of the three pitch types. He is hitting 125 against off-speed pitches with a 48% whiff rate. That is ridiculous. And obviously things will measure out and even out over time, but I see no reason to throw him anything other than off-speed pitches if you're an opposing pitcher right now. All right. Other bad, Chris Bassett has been less than good in his first two starts for the Orioles. 10 earned runs in just 6 1/3. That blow-up start on Easter Sunday to make it 2 straight Easters that the Orioles have ruined for their fans was painful to watch, especially because he got hit by a comebacker at one point too. That did not look fun. It was like 116 off the bat or whatever it was. Not fun when you're 37 years old. He stayed into pitch. Good for him. But he needed Cade Povich to come into that game and help mop things up after that because it was not pleasant. And he has started out season slow before. 2023 with the Toronto Blue Jays, he had a 10.61 ERA through his first two starts and finished the season with a 3.60 ERA and still had 200 innings pitched. You hope that's what happens after this because I think a lot of Orioles fans are getting flashbacks right now, fairly or not, to Charlie Morton from last year.
Yeah. And you know, I think, you know, I don't think we need to pat ourselves on the back for this, but I think it was very clear and we've tried to clarify that all the nice things you could say about Chris Bassett were things that were said in January 2025 about Charlie Morton.
Exactly.
And I don't think this is that yet. The next question, like the follow-up question that I would ask myself is why don't you think that? I don't have a good answer for that either. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like that yet.
You just need more from the guy right now, and you owe him some kind of patience because he is not Charlie Morton. He is a different human being, so you can't carry over Charlie Morton's sins can't transpose them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you signed this guy because you expected him to be somebody who was going to take the ball every fifth day and at least eat innings for you and at least have an ERA around 4 for you. And it has not been that through 2 starts.
Yeah. And this is the type of thing that can balance itself out incredibly quickly. I think I don't have a good answer for this. It's just not been good so far.
He didn't have a good answer.
Yeah. And you know who else didn't have a good answer?
Charlie Morton.
Charlie Morton. Like, this is the type of thing that's really challenging because, you know, and I think this is a conversation that's happening in a lot of places, not just in this room. It's really hard right now to not just basically like pretend this is like month 7 of the 2025 season.
Right.
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's a right perspective. I also have no, other than like the typical nonsense of like, it's a different season and there's a different manager and there's different players and there's, not everyone's hurt. Although Gunnar Henderson dove headfirst in the first base.
What are we doing?
Like,
pretty much like on the anniversary of when Colton Cowser did it last year.
Yeah. But it would, all those, it's just really hard. And I'm not going to use any of my personal time or energy right now being like, I think I'm going to end up, I do and have used a lot of my time and personal energy and thought trying to figure out how to articulate why that's not like, we're not just like continuing last year and why that's not like a valid or a thought that I would endorse or support. But I don't think I'm going to use any of that energy to be like Chris Bassett's going to be okay.
Right.
I'm not saying he's not going to be okay. It's just, how am I supposed to know?
No,
I don't know anything.
And
I know more than so I know about some things. I don't know anything about Chris Bassett or how this is going to work.
Yeah, nobody does. It is interesting to see how the Orioles approach this because last year Charlie Morton kept getting starts in the rotation because the Orioles had nowhere else to go. They had nobody else who could really come up and start games for them. I mean, they were already kind of in the dregs of their minor league depth at that point, and they had signed Charlie Morton and they just kept giving him the ball every 5th day, and ultimately things evened out. But by that point, the season was over. They cut bait with Kyle Gibson after a handful of starts. With Chris Bassett, this Orioles team this front office is acting with more urgency. And I wonder if Zach Eflin were healthy, how many starts the Orioles would give Chris Bassett before doing something. But the problem is Zach Eflin's not healthy. And Dean Kramer is probably going to be thrust back into this rotation. The only, solace you could take is, or a potential option other than Chris Bassett is you could say, well, Cade Povich pitched pretty well over the weekend in relief, but
yeah, Brandon Young did too.
I don't know if you want to turn the ball over to either of those guys, considering what the 2025 season that they're both coming off of, though.
Here is a difference. Not a difference, but here's what needs to happen. The Orioles need to not be terrible on the other 4 days of the rotation too.
Yeah, no, exactly.
The Charlie Morton of it all was worse because they were losing all the other games too.
Yeah.
And at that point there was like I think Sugano was like fine.
He was good to start the year.
Dean Kramer it was April. So it wasn't,
Dean Kramer was not good.
It wasn't great.
Kyle Gibson was bad.
Yeah. Kyle Gibson wasn't even in the mix at that point, but this time
early.
Last year, it's Dean Kramer. It's Charlie Morton. It's Sugano.
Yep.
I'm not even remembering who else was in this rotation.
Grayson was hurt at that point.
Yeah, Grayson Rodriguez was hurt. Who's the opening?
Cade Povich.
Who's the opening they started?
Zach Eflin.
Zach Eflin.
Who got hurt after 3 starts.
Was probably already. Yeah, he was, and he pitched well, but then he goes down, and and then you have the Cade Povich. Then you're calling on Cade Povich
and Brandon Young,
Albert Suarez,
and Chase
barely
McDermott.
Pitched. Yeah, all these things happened, and Charlie Morton was bad. You can basically put off to one side. Like one of the 5 days of rotation is Trevor Rogers. Like that's you can not put your feet up, but you don't have to be like on the edge of your seat there.
Right.
I still feel that way about Kyle Bradish.
Well,
Shane Baz is better than any of the people we mentioned. So that will give Chris Bassett the time and give the Orioles the time to give Chris Bassett the time is that if they're not, and we're talking about a team that's 5-6 and will either come home 5-7 or 6-6. Like we're not talking about anything great, but you're not out of the game at that point.
No.
So you can give him time if you're not like terrible all the other days.
Well, let's talk about Kyle Bradish because through his first 2 starts, 8 2/3, and he does pitch today. So again, by the time you listen to this, his stats could be very different, but 6 earned runs. And that second start in Pittsburgh especially was not great. And it kind of blow up second inning. He settled down eventually, but it seems like his command isn't quite where it was in the second half of last year when he came back. And to be expected, I think you could say, because he's still coming back from Tommy John, but through 2 starts, he has not been great.
Yeah. Yeah. All the energy that I don't think it's going to take a lot of energy. But all the energy that I am not using on the Chris Bassett defense, I will use on the Kyle Bradish defense. It's just, it doesn't feel like, I mean, I believe one of the things we said on this podcast recently is I don't know what a bad Kyle Bradish start looks like. And I think we're kind of seeing it.
We're seeing it. Yeah.
It's like he's had 2 bad innings, right? He's only pitched, 8 and 2/3 innings, but 2 of them have
been bad,
have been 4-run innings. And some of those are on him and some of those are on his teammates. And
we'll get into the defense in just a sec under the ugly section.
Yeah. It seems like it seems okay. I mean, the expected stats are red bars. They're good. We're going to be sitting here. I think the next time we talk, he will probably have already pitched twice since then, and it'll probably be fine.
Yeah. Let's talk about the ugly though. And that's the defense, which has been as bad as advertised. And we probably should have done a little bit more talking about the defense on this podcast. I know Andy Kuska has written about and talked about his concern level with the Orioles defense. It was real bad over the weekend in Pittsburgh. Saturday, all 3 of those runs, it was a good Shane Baz start, and all 3 of those runs score from Pittsburgh because either Kobe Mayo and or the pitchers were not able to make plays. Sunday, Jeremiah Jackson makes a boneheaded move in that blow-up inning with Chris Bassett. We saw yesterday Taylor Ward dive for a ball and then stumble trying to get the ball.
Holding his hand warmer. He was like doing like a Ricky Bobby out there. He's like, I don't know, dude, I got a glove. I got a hand warmer. I'm just going to stop this ball with my chest.
What do I do with my hands? It just real not good. I mean, Blaze Alexander has been a good defensive player for this team. There aren't a whole lot of bright spots defensively. The pitchers, for some reason, can't seem to field their position. Kobe Mayo is still very much a work in progress at third. And again, if Kobe Mayo is hitting, you can take some lumps defensively, but he's hitting 154 at this point. And the outfield defense in particular is especially concerning. I mean, Taylor Ward has pretty good range, but doesn't have a great arm and doesn't seem like his instincts are terrific. Dylan Beavers just is not good defensively in any of those 3 spots. I'm sorry. Tyler, he's in the first percentile in fielding run value, according to StatCast. Tyler O'Neill still has a rocket arm, but has made a couple boneheaded mistakes and does not have good range anymore because he's not as athletic as he once was. Colton Cowser is fine. Leody Taveras is good. It's just, it's question marks all over the diamond.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, I think it's interesting how like it just kind of became a thing like at the end of spring training, like, oh, this team's going to be bad defensively. And now it's like, oh, like it feels like it's more of a thing than it kind of needs to be. They need to play good.
I mean, the defense has lost them games.
Yes, it has lost them games. I think that's fair to say because it's true. It's the same as, and I think this is not a cop-out, but it's the same thing as I've said about a lot of things on this team that aren't great or could be better, is that it doesn't matter if everything that's supposed to be good is good. Not to say that you can go out there and like wear your glove on the wrong hand because you score 7 runs a night. Like that's not how baseball works. That's not going to be enough runs if nobody's wearing the glove on the right hand. But these are the types of things that they can make not matter as much by being the team they're supposed to be. Now, there is more swing and miss. There is more strikeout potential in this rotation and on this pitching staff than there has been in years past. You can't say like, well, just strike everybody out because nobody behind you can catch the ball. I think people need to like make the basic plays. And I think those are the ones that are more glaring to me. I don't want to say it doesn't matter. It definitely matters if you lose games this way. I remember, all you had to do is like, I think Craig Albernass said in his introductory press conference, like citing the World Series, being like everybody, like teams won and lost the World Series by like making plays defensively and like, hitting their cutoff mans and like hitting their cutoff men and being like perfectly locked in all the time. And I do give some rope, I guess. I think he said this weekend that defense wasn't something that was focused on here for a long time. I'm pretty sure he said that.
Interesting.
Which is weird. But it's also, that also doesn't really, that's not really material to what's happening right now, because like Kobe Mayo did focus on defense a lot last year. It was just on the other side of the field.
He was in the wrong position.
It was on the other side of the field. Like Gunnar Henderson did focus on defense. I think there was a huge floor raising of him defensively and like making the routine plays at shortstop, and he still makes spectacular plays, but I don't know if it was 24 or 25 where you kind of notice like you kind of noticed that he was like not making it. You make errors defensively because you can throw. If you can't throw, you're not going to try to make throws.
Right.
So if you see somebody with a lot of errors, it's like, are they booting the ball, or are they just like trying to make like every single play and throwing the ball past the first baseman? It's usually the latter, and he doesn't really do that anymore. Then you go around the diamond, and it's like Adley Rutschman is I don't want to participate in the Adley Rutschman catcher discourse. I think he's a fine catcher, and it's not really material.
And I think he got a lot better last year.
And every single other person is not somebody who's really like a meaningful part of this team.
Yeah.
Like Taylor Ward wasn't subject to the Orioles, quote unquote, maybe not focusing on defense because he wasn't here. Like Colton Cowser was playing a different position, and he played it really well. Now he's playing center field, and I think he's going to play fine center field, and that's going to be okay. Dylan Beavers is moving around like, I don't really know what's going on defensively with him. I don't think he's bad defender. I think there's probably like still a bit of an adjustment, and like there's not a lot of consistency there. And we're not talking about otherwise anyone who could be put in that category of like, now we need to start focusing on defense. But they do. And like, that's what they're going to need to be better. And I think the way that they do that is like, they score more runs and they pitch better so that they can give themselves a little space to breathe, where it's not every time they lose a game, it's because they can't field.
Yeah, I think bring Jackson Holiday back off the injured list will help that a little bit, because there was another at least average defender, and that could move Blaze Alexander over to third. If you have concerns about Kobe Mayo, that could move Blaze Alexander to center. Yeah,
then you have a good infield at that point. Like, I'm not saying Jackson Holiday is going to be like a Gold Glove second baseman, but he absolutely could.
He could. I mean, he's got to get better moving to his right, I think was the big bugaboo for him last year.
Yeah.
Other ugly pitcher injuries in particular, Zach Eflin moved to the 60-day IL. He's getting a second opinion on his elbow. Not looking great there. Yarmil Geraldo has a shoulder issue. He's on the IL.
Those are two completely different things. I just wanted to say that as I saw them stacked up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Those are two
completely different things. Yeah. One injury is,
Okay, Yarmil, I hope you're well soon.
Yeah. One injury has a lot more impact than the other.
Yes. Sorry. I just need to separate that out.
Yeah. And then Dietrich Enns, this I just had to throw in here because Craig Albernes said his foot was looking gnarly. He was dealing with a foot infection. He's on the IL. He had to go to the hospital. Hope that he's feeling a lot better.
It's so funny. Not funny. It's really like, I don't want anything to do with the foot infection, and it's not funny. So I shouldn't have said the word funny, but there's like it's been very clear that Craig Albernes is not interested in talking about like injuries or timetables, but like if it's like gross, you got to hear about it.
He's got to mention it.
I got to tell everybody.
I won't talk about any other injuries, but boy, that was gnarly.
That was a good gnarly.
Thank you. I feel like Eflin, obviously, we talked about a lot last week. We hope that he does not require season-ending surgery, but anytime he's moved to the 60-day IL and getting a second opinion, it's not looking great.
I feel like we've gotten a lot better at talking about elbow injury specifically.
Yeah, we certainly have.
I don't know what's going to happen. It's like,
yeah.
Well, but we're just, but I shouldn't have even called it. I should have just let it slide. But now it's like, now I'm trying to think about how we used to talk about it, and I just remember sitting here and be like, we know what's going to happen.
Right. And I think there are different kinds of procedures. I think the Cubs Cade Horton just went down with an elbow injury, and they just said he's going to have some kind of procedure. It could be a brace, it could be Tommy John, it could be something else, but his season is over, and I think that's. I mean, I don't want to say his season is over when it's not over yet.
I'm thinking about the word debridement.
Oh God, yeah, debridement.
It looks like debridement, but it's debridement.
Okay.
I think that's what one of our listeners told you.
Yes. I'm going to get an angry email again from this
person.
It wasn't angry.
You said both, so one of them is right.
Yeah, one of them's got to be right. And then just one more final note on this. If we had done this podcast Monday, John, before the Orioles ripped off 2 wins in Chicago, God. 2 hard-fought wins, by the way, 2 wins that they had to claw back.
That's the only way that that's what's happened. That's why I know you might notice I haven't written anything this week. It's just like it hasn't changed. This is just the grind. And
it's a grind.
Either they're gonna get through it or they're not. But like, there's nothing wrong with it being a grind.
No, and it's just frustrating, I think, for a lot of Orioles fans because they feel like, especially after the weekend in Pittsburgh, they were thinking, "Have we seen this movie before?" John, I've cast some plays, some musicals before. I'm a theater guy. And I felt like recasting the 2025 Orioles as 2026 Orioles and the 2025 cast with Chris Bassett starring in the role as Charlie Morton, with Leody Taveras starring in the role as Ramon Laureano as the surprising off-season addition to your outfield who ends up being better than everybody thinks, with Zach Eflin starring in the role as Grayson Rodriguez or Zach Eflin himself, and then everybody else just reprising their roles. Like, that's what it felt like, of like, we have seen this before. All of these guys are doing the same things that we saw last year. And it was so easy for everybody to kind of throw up their hands after that weekend in Pittsburgh and say, same old team. You just hope that this team is going to be different. And we at least owe them patience. We at least owe Craig Alvarez some kind of patience. We at least owe these new additions some kind of patience. It is a new season. We should treat it as such, but I also understand why fans are carrying over the PTSD from last year.
Yeah. I think, and this came up at the ballpark last week, that Kansas City series that was a little later in April than this Pittsburgh one, where like that Kansas City series last year,
Gunner's first series back.
Yeah. So maybe it wasn't later. Was it like the first weekend or was it the first road trip?
It was about,
you went there, right?
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 weeks into the season. It was, maybe it was 2 or 3. It was Gunner's first series back. That was the series where they threw Jorge Mateo into center field and in place of Cedric Mullins, and he makes a ball. He lets a ball go off his glove, and they lose games that they shouldn't.
Yeah, but like that was when you kind of knew, like, if you wanted to look back and be like, if you really wanted to know, that was the time where you're like, oh man, this is kind of,
even at the moment, everybody was kind of like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and I don't think this weekend was like that. I think it felt a little bit like that, but again, there's such, you know who's not running back, been recast in the same role, like Connor Henderson, who's like Adley Rutschman. I think Pete Alonso probably has a little more in the tank. I think there's some interesting things to watch with him, but like Taylor Ward is better than Tyler O'Neill. That's pretty clear. Maybe not in the field, but he's already like had more of an offensive impact in like 2 weeks than Tyler. Like and that's kind of the thing you just have to kind of think about. There's a lot different, and there's a lot that can be better. And it is not our job or anyone else's job. I mean, it is some people's job, basically people who are employed by the Baltimore Orioles or use the word Birdland regularly. It's their job to say, like, don't worry, it's all going to be fine. Like, take that for what it's worth. This is not that. This is like the baseball season started 2 weeks ago. Like, this is also all the same things that happened and were said last year. And I think it's just really hard to strike an appropriate balance to that. If this series had not gone well, then this would be like, they're basically like losing their minds up in Boston right now. Right. It would feel like that. But like every team that's not having a good start is like the team that's coming here this weekend, like the Giants. Like,
yeah, they've been abysmal to start.
There's all kinds of stuff going on there. I kind of want to go over to that dugout and hear that guy talk.
Tony Vitello, yeah.
I don't know why I call him that guy, but I refer to him as that guy because I feel like if you know, you know.
Yeah.
It's just like I want to hear it. I want to go experience that a little bit. But it's very interesting that they have. I mean, interesting. It's good for the Orioles that this last few games and have gone the way that they did.
For sure.
Because imagine if they don't. Imagine if Gunnar Henderson dives in the first base and it's not okay.
Yeah.
Like imagine if Brandon Young doesn't pitch 5 good innings. Like there is stuff that's happening right now that if you want to be looking at like, oh, here we go again, like all that stuff would have gone wrong. Because basically everything did go wrong last year.
Yeah.
And even the absence of a couple things going wrong is, a relief to the Orioles. It should be a relief to people who care about the Orioles. And I think that over the course of a 6-month season, people are going to do, I don't know why I'm holding my coffee in my lap. I'm going to spill and it looks like my, there are going to be moments when Colton Cowser gets hot. Dylan Beavers is going to get hot. All these guys, presumably, even if it's not like for a long time, they're going to, whether stabilize, get hot. It's going to be up and down. But those first 4 spots in the lineup are going to be what carries them. And so far, you're getting like between Taylor Ward, Gunnar Henderson, Pete Alonso, and Adley Rutschman, like 85% of like what you would expect or hope for statistically, like maybe a little more slug from all of them. But that's just going to be how the Orioles win games. And if that's intact, the season is intact. And I think that's kind of, and that's not even allowing for the rotation to stabilize, which it seems like it kind of has outside of, I guess Kyle Bradish still needs the opportunity to do so, but like outside of Chris Bassett, the rotation's kind of stabilized. We're talking about intrigue in the 5th starter spot, and the options are not terrible. And that's a better spot than most teams are in. So I just kind of come back to like, yes, there are things that probably feel the same. And there are also such material differences. And thank gosh the season has started because we spent like 5 months talking about how different it was. But now you actually have Gunnar Henderson being Gunnar Henderson again. Now you have Taylor Ward being the guy that they traded. Now you can see what it looks like if Adley Rutschman's healthy and not
dealing with
physically,
2 obliques.
Yeah, physically overcompensating for something and not swinging the way that he should. You can see it all happening. So it's not this made up idea anymore. And I think that is I think that in a world where the 2025 Orioles weren't a disaster and everything didn't go terribly for them, there would be more, not focus, but that would have as much weight as it should, rather than the last like 12 months being the weight that is more meaningful.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we'll look ahead. Toyota knows your day doesn't slow down, so your vehicle shouldn't either. From the efficient Corolla and always-ready Camry to the adventurous RAV4 and spacious Grand Highlander, plus many models available with all-wheel drive, Toyota builds a lineup that shows up for every kind of driver. And right now, great financing and lease options are available to qualified customers, making it a perfect time to find the one that fits you. Find a great deal today at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. All right, John, one more in Chicago, and then the Orioles come home for that series against the San Francisco Giants that you mentioned. We'll go listen to that guy talk when the Giants come to town.
Yeah, who knows what he's going to say, too.
Yeah.
I think we got one of those, too, but at least it's like I think
I think people are like, I want to listen to that guy talk so I can hear his accent.
Yeah. 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 Yes. Yes.
All right. We will have another podcast for you at some point next week. In the meantime, like, rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. Subscribe to the banner to get John's newsletter, Inside the Dugout. Andy Kuska writing great stuff as well. We've added Andrew Golden, the great Andrew Golden, to our staff as well. Kyle Goon writing columns. So much more.
Does Toyota send me a check personally, or do you disperse that?
You get a car.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
You just get the newest Camry, I think. The always ready Camry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deal.
At John Meoli is his handle. I'm at Paul Mancano and at